I'm excited to jump into some news. So what's new in Microsoft episode? We're recording this here at the end of March, so it'll probably land sometime in April. And it's kind of a busy season on the Microsoft front. Lots of stuff to talk about. I definitely had to cherry pick some topics, and there'll be a few things we go over very quickly. But a really exciting time to be a nerd in the Microsoft space. Lots of exciting things to talk about. So let's jump right in. First thing on my mind is, the announcements around Microsoft 365 E7, Agent 365, the whole Frontier Suite, and Copilot Co-work. We've actually done basically 2 full episodes recently on this topic. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this topic other than just to cover it high level. But it's a big deal. It's one of the biggest announcements from Microsoft in a number of years. The idea behind Microsoft 365 E7 is it combines the E5 suite with a Copilot license, an IntraSuite license, and an Agent 365 license, and really opens up the ability for a corporation to really manage their AI usage from end to end. And with Microsoft's got a 15% discount when it launches on May 1st of 2026. With that pricing, if you're using E5 and Copilot, it's actually very compelling. It's a very, very well-priced solution and opens up all kinds of doors. And I think it's also going to give you access to features earlier than you would get on other licenses. Microsoft's clearly prioritizing this license. We're going to circle back to this in a little bit. There's a tie-in later on, but really big announcement. Like I said, we have full episodes where we dig into this from a couple different perspectives. And I expect we'll be talking about this every other week for the rest of maybe the year. I don't know. It's going to be a high piece of a very high focus for us, just as AI and Agent 365 seems to be a really big thing. And the Copilot Co-work, we're really excited about. I'm really looking forward to using that, to playing with that. We're in the Frontier program. Hopefully we get some of the early access they're talking about here. They said end of March. We're at the end of the March. We haven't seen it. I haven't heard of anybody getting it outside of the private preview. So we'll see. When we get it, you guys will be the first to know about the stuff we get to play with. Copilot Co-work is a tool that it's powered by Work IQ, which is Microsoft's data layer that's kind of keeping track of your emails, your meetings, your files, your teams, your calendars, the people you work with. It tries to kind of build a persona of who you are. And what it does is allows you to do things like calendar cleanup, company research for maybe internal reporting or customer kind of prospecting, help you build meeting prep and competitive analysis. It's built on Anthropic's cloud co-work technology. And I, for one, am really excited about a virtual assistant for my calendar, my contacts, and my email, because, man, it can be a lot to keep up with Teams and emails and calendars. It's just it's a big challenge these days with the rate at which we can communicate and move. Moving on from that whole stack of topics. Next announcement I wanted to highlight that I think is really cool. In Teams, if you have your Microsoft 365 Copilot license, we've had the ability to do meeting recaps for a long time. And so you can record the meeting and then have AI take that transcription and turn it into an AI-generated recap. And that's an incredibly valuable tool. I use it a couple times a day, often use it to review what we talked about in the previous meeting or send a recap to a customer. You can even turn on the facilitator level, which adds an even more in-depth recap and loop. But this new feature that just announced in the last couple of weeks is and is going to be available here in the next few weeks is the ability to listen to those instead of read them. And this is a really interesting option. So maybe you have a number of meetings per day, like I do, and sometimes it's tough to attend all the meetings. You now have this ability to follow it where people can record the meeting and then you can go review the recap later. We now have an option inside of the Teams app where you can have it read to you, and it reads it to you almost like a podcast. So maybe you're driving home and you want to catch up on that meeting you missed. Pull out your Teams app, your phone, jump into that Teams app, go find that recap and listen to the audio recap. Great way to keep up with meetings and maybe redeem some of that travel time or time that you're doing other things, doing the dishes, but be able to kind of catch up on some meetings you missed. So I think this is a really cool feature. I'm excited to see Microsoft using this. I've used Google's version, a similar version of this quite a while called Google Notebook LM. And what that does, it allows me to take a number of topics, maybe some YouTube videos and some web articles or some PDFs, and upload them and say, build me an AI generated podcast on this topic. This feels a lot like that to me, where Microsoft's enabling kind of almost a podcast style ability to catch up on your meetings. It does require the Microsoft 365 Copilot license, which is something we're recommending for a lot of our knowledge workers. It's just such a productivity enhancer. We have it in our tenant, and I don't think there's anything super special about our corporate tenants. So I think it's available to most people already. Worth checking out. A very cool product. Back to the E7 conversation. One of the things you're going to get there is Microsoft is really trying to help build out some more shadow AI control. And a bunch of this was announced the last month, either in the last few Microsoft announcements, or there was a bunch announced at the RSA conference, which just wrapped up, I think, yesterday. So we're on the 27th of March. On the 26th, the RSA conference was the 23rd through the 26th. Lots of industry announcements. We're going to talk about some more here from Microsoft. But this one specifically is around the problem of shadow AI. You've got users in your company that are using AI and you don't know about it. Maybe you've given them access to Copilot, but unless you have some pretty technical controls in place, they may be logging into ChatGPT and Anthropic and Gemini and DeepSeek or other AI tools, and it can be hard to control that. In the Microsoft stack, we have Cloud App Security, where we can start to analyze that data. But it's sometimes hard for the various pieces to catch all that data. Microsoft announced a number of different things that they've added to make this easier. There is the Microsoft Edge browser now has an in-browser managed DLP powered by Purview that starts to pay attention to the prompts that are being generated in the browser. It also looks for sensitive data, can block it instantly. Users can do policy notifications, redirects. It's tied into your Entra ID, so you can really dial it in. And so that's a really interesting set of variables where Edge now is providing some of the controls around making sure you're understanding what people are doing with AI. And that also assumes that you're forcing people into Edge, so you've got to have other controls in place to help people dial that in. There's a couple other tools we've used in the past for this, but it's exciting to see Microsoft is helping with the shadow AI. There's a couple other things that are even cooler and maybe more effective. Internet access, which is a part of the Global Secure Access Suite, which is Microsoft's SASE solution that's really, really exciting. And we're going to do some episodes about that in the next few weeks. They now have a network layer detection of previously unknown AI apps in use. And so it catches the tools that endpoint management can't see. It's using it, just paying attention to all the traffic coming and going from your endpoint. Really cool capability in global secure access, and definitely worth looking at. And in the next few months, Microsoft's bringing out some additional capabilities that they announced for Purview at RSA. And that includes the ability to block PII, financial data, and IP from AI prompts across apps and agents, customizable reporting, and expanded DLP coverage across a broader list of consumer AI tools. So it's exciting to see Microsoft building out tooling to say, hey, we understand that your users are getting prompted with AI in the browser and AI in these apps and AI in agents and AI in your third-party line of business apps. They're everywhere, and Microsoft's really trying to give you visibility and manageability, and it's some great announcements from them on that front. On to another announcement. I'm really excited about this one. This got announced as a public preview in February, but I just really wanted to circle back to it. It's a little bit older feature, but it's huge. If you've ever done a 365 security assessment and you're going through a tenant, one of the things we're gonna drive you to when we do those assessments, we're gonna go look at your enterprise applications. And enterprise applications are applications that are connected to Microsoft 365 using an OAuth or a graph connection, and they're all registered in Intra. And it's one of the ways we connect up apps we're using. And this is really valuable if you're doing single sign-on to Office 365, or maybe you've connected up some third-party apps that are accessing some of your data, your email data, your login data. There's a lot of really good use cases for running enterprise apps, and some of them are Microsoft products or third-party products we trust, and we're gonna run them in our environment. Things like the tool we use to do our 365 security assessment uses the same connectivity. But one of the challenges we have is that when you get into a tenant, a lot of older tenants, you'll find that there's a lot of enterprise apps, and some of them are older, and it's hard to tell what they're doing. Microsoft gives us some data, but honestly, there are times I wish I had more data when I'm investigating them. And when we're going through that, sometimes the conversation becomes, well, what do I do with it? I don't think I want this one, but I'm worried about killing it off. Microsoft added in February an ability to deactivate an app without deleting it. In the past, you really kind of had to decide to keep it or to kill it. There was not a lot of middle ground. Now we have the ability to deactivate the app. So what that means is that no new access tokens can be issued once that deactivation is in place. Existing tokens remain valid until they naturally expire, although I think you can go kill some tokens if you want to on that front. You get to keep all your configuration permissions and metadata. So it's fully reversible. So that's the big thing. Hey man, we think this app is suspicious. Maybe it's at the same time as you've got a threat actor in the tenant and you don't trust an app, but you don't want to break something that's production, maybe something that could be disruptive to the business. You can deactivate it and see what happens, and gives you a chance to really suspend that access and really make sure that you're comfortable with whether it's good or bad before deleting it completely in the environment. And so, and another use case is if it is a threat, if there is a threat actor involved, there is a conversation that deleting that app is removing some of the forensics for that incident response investigation. So being able to disable it without deleting it really is an important variable in that scenario where you don't want that app to maintain its access to your tenant, but you need the app to stay present so that you can look at it as part of your forensics. So this is one of those little changes that Microsoft made that I'm really excited about, that I think adds a lot of value for many of our customers. Some other big security enhancements from RSA conference this week. The theme was ambient and autonomous security at RSA. So the idea we're protecting users, devices, AI agents, prompts, autonomous workflows. Microsoft had one of the keynotes. Their VP Vasu Jakal was there. What they're doing though is they're bringing out some interesting stuff. They are bringing in a new identity security dashboard that consolidates identity events, intra, on-prem AD, SaaS apps, PAM, IGA, and non-human identity. So really trying to give you a more centralized identity security dashboard with some AI-powered security triage through an agent. This is the battleground these days, people. This is where all security is heading. It used to be, people are looking for ways into your firewall or how to run the best malware ever. Identity is where a lot of the battle has moved. And so I'm excited to see Microsoft doing that. Microsoft is building out some Teams call threat detection to detect voice-based attacks and phishing attempts. That allows your SOC to have insights in that and real-time voice call monitoring. Pretty interesting. Voice-based attacks are surging, where your users are being socially engineered through voice calls. This is a fascinating thing they've come up with. I'm curious to see how that goes from a privacy and an opt-in perspective, but really valuable, especially for companies that get a lot of phone calls. Maybe customer scenarios are a common thing where they're taking a lot of call volume. Being able to have some AI intelligence around some of those calls, monitoring things, is a real value for them. So really exciting to see what they're building. And they're also adding additional features left and right to Security Copilot. Agentic SOC capabilities like a security analyst agent that does autonomous threat hunting and risk detection. Agentic secret finder. It looks for exposed secrets in credentials and emails, chat logs, documents, and screenshots using multi-step reasoning. And this is an interesting thing that I think becomes more and more important. And I read an article this week about this where, more and more credentials are kind of slipping through the cracks. and partly because AI is involved. Maybe you've got a document with some passwords in it and some AI keys. They the AI sometimes will snag that data and put it into something without you knowing it. Maybe you're having a document built about a project, and somehow just in passing, there's a credential in there. Um, we need more things looking for this, and I know a lot of the tools like GitHub and Google are starting to really monitor GitHub commits to look for credentials. This adds another layer to Security Copilot where it's looking for those things as well. Pretty important, pretty valuable. And predictive shielding, automated hardening actions triggered during active attacks. So maybe it's clear a threat actor has gotten into your tenant. They're able to kind of script some automated things you might do as a security professional to harden your tenant while that incident is in progress to limit the lateral movement and the blast radius of that threat. That threat is that is active in your tenant. So Security Copilot is now integrated by default into Microsoft 365 E5 and E7. It was a standalone product last year, which was pretty spendy. Now it's included with your E5 and E7. The volume of prompts you're able to do has limits, and so you still will pay for it if you're using it above a certain volume based on the size of your tenant. But it's an incredible value on the E5 side that you're getting all the agentic SOC Security Copilot capabilities as part of the E5 and E7 SKUs. So big deal. Speaking of pricing, just going to touch on this. We've talked about this previously, but we're getting closer. It's almost April, and in July 2026, we have a bunch of price increases on July 1st. Your M365 Basic and Standard are all both going up by a couple dollars. Your E3 is going up by $3. So is E5. The F1 SKUs are going up by 75 cents or for F1 and $2 for F3. Business Premium and E1 are staying the same price. So a lot of price changes if you're using some of those SKUs. I mean, some of those SKUs are things we sell a lot of: Office 365 E3, M365 E3, and E5. Business Basic, and Business Standard are all licensed we sell a lot of. So a couple of things to keep in mind there. The price changes are effective July 1st, but many people have their annual NCE renewals around this time of year in Q1. And so if you had your renewal this year, you will be grandfathered in and maintain your pricing until your renewal next year. So for a lot of people, these prices are not really going to take effect till 2027. But if you're thinking about making a change, or maybe you're thinking about upgrading to E5 because you're excited about the capabilities in that SKU, the time to do it would be before July 1st so you can lock in the lower rate before the prices increase. On the same token, Microsoft is adding some pretty cool features to a number of the SKUs. Office 365 E3 and Microsoft 365 E3 are both getting Defender for Office 365 Plan 1, which is spam and phishing protection. That's pretty solid. We deploy it to most of our customers and are big believers in it. And now it's going to be included. That's part of that price change, is you're getting additional features. Business Premium is not getting a price change, but it's getting bigger mailboxes on July 1st. So there's a number of upsides for some of these SKUs with the new pricing, but it's just important to be aware. And we're happy to walk you through that if you're confused about that, and kind of can help you through that. Also effective April 1st, which is a couple day, the traditional 30-day free grace period after subscription expiration is eliminated. Used to be when your Microsoft license is expired, you'd get 30 days to kind of get things moved off. Maybe kind of Microsoft didn't start breaking stuff immediately. That is going away. At the end of your term, you now have a couple of options. Most of the time, people are going to have a partner like us that's going to have to manage this for you or work with you to work through this. But it's important to know there's an auto renew option, which will just renew it as is. That's what most subscriptions will do. But maybe you're changing SKUs at the end of your subscription. Option B is cancel at expiration. This means it's done. The day it expires, the services stop. Data is retained temporarily. Not clear how long, but they're not deleting your data, but you can't use features. And in the past, you had maybe 30 days where the licenses would continue to work. So it means that if we're canceling a license, we need to be really clear on getting the replacement licenses in right before the cancellation. They also have this new term called extended service term, which is a month-to-month at standard rates plus a 3% uplift. So it's in effectively a 23% because month-to-month is 20% higher. This adds another 3%. So it allows you to keep the license running for 30 days while you're transitioning data off, but it's at 23% above MSRP. The big thing to keep in mind with that is that might be a surprise bill. Hey, I canceled that. Well, you thought you canceled it, but you didn't unassign the licenses and you didn't properly manage your SKU in the portal. And so now you're in this extended service term and you're going to have not only a bill, but a bill at a 23% higher rate. So it's really important that you understand these things, especially for the partners out there, to keep on top of that. I'm going to do a full episode about that in the next week or so and really talk through this, just talk through the options people have. But yeah, it's a really interesting set of variables that they're changing up on the licensing front. Also, on a similar topic, if you are a partner, your internal use rights are changing. It was announced here in February, but these licenses are going to change over the next 12 months based on when you have your renewal. And so internal use rights are licenses Microsoft gives partners as they are participating in the partner network. They're useful for demoing and testing things, for running different aspects of your business, that sort of thing. Microsoft is changing those up. It looks like a lot of the Dynamics licenses are no longer available for production use. So I think they want us to be buying Dynamics for using it. And then a lot of the licenses are changing. We're getting a little more Azure credits, a few more Copilot capabilities, more security capabilities, a new partner marketing center that's launching. But the big thing is they're also going to be more picky about how those licenses are assigned. And there's not a ton of clarity on what that looks like yet. It looks like they're really limiting the number of tenants you can apply those internal use licenses on. And for many of us partners, we use multiple tenants. Maybe we have one tenant we provision licenses from and maybe manage our Microsoft partner relationship with, and another Microsoft 365 tenant that we run our business out of. And it's not clear whether we'll be able to move those licenses between those two. More to come, but definitely worth keeping an eye on if you are a partner out there and you're navigating the Microsoft licensing ecosystem. Couple more I wanted to hit here. Microsoft announced in public preview in mid-March Intra ID backup and recovery. So it's a native point-in-time backup for Intra ID directory objects. It's automatic. It's simple. It retains the last 5 days of backup history and it's tamper-proof. Not even global admins can delete or modify the backups. What does it protect? Users, groups, applications, service principals, conditional access policies, authentication methods, named locations, and authorization policies. It does not cover on-premise and synchronized objects that are synced from AD or hard deleted objects as well. Kind of competes with maybe tools from AvePoint, Veeam, Quest, or some of the other players in the space. But this can be really helpful. You've got a overly ambitious person with admin rights who deletes a group, and that group has got a lot of work put into it as far as what it's doing. Maybe a service principal, that one could be very disruptive, trying to rebuild all the things that service principal is connected to, maybe authentication methods, policies that were customized. Sometimes these policies are pretty nuanced. And so having these, the ability to recover these is a big win for admins everywhere. And it's nice to see Microsoft making this a part of the platform. The final thing I want to touch on is something I've been playing with, and we're going to do a whole episode on this in the future. But if you are using Copilot and you are in the Frontier program, which I recommend you evaluate, we'll do an episode on the Frontier program as well. The idea behind the Frontier program is it's Microsoft's way of kind of giving you access to the bleeding edge, newer features in Microsoft 365 Copilot and in Agent 365 and these sorts of things. It's an opt-in program in your tenant where if you're running Copilot, you can opt into it. It allows you to access more models like Claude and Grok in your Copilot environment. It opens up additional capabilities across different apps that are kind of in preview. And one of the big things that were launched in the last few months is Microsoft first-party frontier agents, and kind of in a public preview. And these are agents that Microsoft has built for us that we can use them. Now, a number of these have been available for a while. The Researcher, I use it pretty often. It allows you to do a deeper dive on a topic. Maybe you're trying to build understanding of a more technical topic. That's where I use it a lot for. I'm trying to understand, how I want to do this, or maybe I want to have it help me build a SOW for a project where I know a lot of the details, but I want to make sure all the fine details get captured. The Researcher is a slower, more detailed, much more in-depth AI prompt model. And analysis, it'll allow you to do complex data analysis with Python code. Those have been around for a while, but we've got some new ones I want to walk you through. But I just wanted to highlight these because these are pretty cool that Microsoft's building these out, and we'll do a deeper dive on these in a coming episode. But there's a word agent that does a lot more integrated AI when you're drafting a document. If you've used Copilot for Microsoft 365, you know that sometimes the AI feels very kind of like one time. Hey, could you build this presentation, or could you build a slide for me, or could you write this document for me? But it can be less interactive and collaborative. These are agents in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint that allow you to build much more real-time AI-based workflows and get help with what you're doing, restructuring, grounding your data and research, looking for trends and anomalies in Excel, generating prompts or maybe individual slides and layout and narrative suggestions on a slide-by-slide basis, and more engaged with what you're doing rather than kind of big picture one-time input. There's also a people agent that gives you all kinds of information about people in your org, their skills, their relationships. A surveys agent that creates and analyzes surveys using forms and Microsoft 365 data. There's an app builder agent that helps you create low-code Power Platform apps. Sales development agent. There is a planner agent, and I'm excited about that one. I've been wondering how long it would take before Microsoft would really integrate some of their AI capabilities into the planner world, and it's exciting to see them doing some things there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that tool can do for us. So lots of stuff to talk about this month. Hopefully that was helpful and interesting. Lots of interesting episodes coming up. I feel like Microsoft's just writing our upcoming episode catalog for us. We're not even having to think that hard. We just got all these interesting things to talk about. A couple action items from this week. Make sure you're paying attention to your CSP renewals. With the change in grace periods, the 5% increase for annual monthly, the July 1st price increases, it's important to stay on top of your CSP renewal windows, and we're here to help. So reach out if you'd like help to the SourcePass MCOE team. Be aware of the E7 capabilities, especially if you're getting into AI. It's a really compelling product and at a compelling price for this first year. Enable shadow AI detection and edge for business and Purview now. That's kind of cool that Microsoft's enabling that. It's worth starting to play with that. Take a look at Intra ID Backup. And if you're using Copilot, join that Frontier program. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, and it's worth getting after that. It's awesome. I'm going to leave you with one kind of quote that I heard recently. Microsoft just drew a clear line in the sand. The productivity era is over. The agentic era has begun. The question is whether your clients will use AI agents. It's not whether your customers and users will use AI agents. It's whether they'll govern them. And it's a exciting time in the industry, kind of one of those bellwether moments where there's a lot changing. And I am looking forward to navigating all those changes with you. We appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully this episode was helpful. And we look forward to catching you on the next episode of the Demystifying Microsoft podcast. Thank you.